Have you ever been told you were special by someone who meant to hurt you? They said it was a game, but games aren't supposed to end in burial. Welcome, mournful scholars. Are you ready to unseal a story buried beneath rot and ribbon? Not a game, a punishment, a fable told by feral boys and girls, where cruelty wears a crown and innocence is the first to die. A quick reminder to all who skulk these rotting halls: no student here is ever graded. But the games, my sweet forgotten ones, they most certainly are. Tonight we dredge something rare from the mire, a title whispered about in forbidden forums and scalped in secondhand markets. A game drenched in velvet, grief, and rot. A game merely devoured by scandal before anyone could hear it scream. Tonight we dare to enter Rule of Rose. Rule of Rose opens not in a manner, but in a memory, a decaying, recursive dream where guilt wears lace and every hallway whispers in allegory, teeth bared beneath the trim. The year is 1930. You are Jennifer, a timid girl summoned to a crumbling orphanage in the English countryside, an airship, a school, a graveyard of childhood. But this place has no walls, only layers, and at the center, a secret no child should ever have to carry. Visually, the game is sepia-drenched decay. Everything looks faded, like a photograph, water-damaged by time and sorrow. The design evokes rusted metal beds, overgrown hedges, dolls with missing eyes, and children who've forgotten how to play gently. Pause here and reflect. The art style is not merely an aesthetic choice. It is a psychological canvas. The muted tones mirror the washed-out emotions of Jennifer herself, as if the world around her is bleeding away along with her innocence. This visual storytelling runs deep, requiring the player not just to observe, but to feel the decay creeping in from every corner. This isn't haunted house horror. This is emotional horror. Claustrophobic, sickly, and dreamlike. The environment feels ritualistic. Objects are arranged like offerings. Every room is curated by forgotten trauma. Consider the way objects are placed. A doll's missing eye, staring accusingly. A child's bed left unmade. Broken toys discarded like lost memories. These details craft an atmosphere thick with unspoken stories, each piece of the setting an artifact of despair. The camera doesn't observe. It lurks. It follows Jennifer at strange angles, reminding us that her story is not hers alone. She's being watched, judged, and so are we. The fixed camera angles, so often criticized in modern games, here become a tool of surveillance and powerlessness. We share Jennifer's vulnerability, her lack of control, not merely over the environment, but over her own narrative. The angles trap us in her fractured point of view. At its surface, Rule of Rose is a tale of lost memories. But beneath that surface, a boiling undercurrent of class violence, childhood cruelty, repressed abuse, and the monstrous power of peer pressure. Jennifer is forced into the aristocracy of the Red Crayon, a secret club of orphaned boys and girls who impose cruel games on her as penance for sins she doesn't remember committing. The story is not told chronologically. Instead, we fall backwards through trauma. Each chapter reveals a twisted fairy tale. Each fairy tale, another form of abuse. Children cast themselves as queens and beasts, rewriting history with scissors and glue. What's real? What's imagined? Even Jennifer doesn't know. This fractured storytelling demands active participation. We must piece together the shards, interpreting metaphor and reality alike. The narrative's ambiguity fosters unease, never fully allowing us to rest in certainty. The strength of Rule of Rose's narrative lies in suggestion. Its themes do not shout, they murmur through cracks in the walls, barely audible, but deeply felt. You feel the horror before you understand it. You fear the children before you grasp what made them monsters. This approach respects the player's intelligence and emotional intuition. Horror becomes a creeping sensation rather than a spectacle. It's an unreliable narrator wrapped in unreliable memory, wrapped in real, raw, emotional pain. But it does stumble. Some scenes linger too long. Others are so metaphorical they risk incoherence. The final revelation, though poignant, may not resonate evenly with every player. Still, this is a narrative with grime beneath its nails, aching, buried, and bleeding quietly from every page. Grief, denial, obsession. It's all here, but told through the cracked lens of a child who was never allowed to grow up with her innocence intact. And now, children of broken mirrors, we arrive at the part where the lesson begins to bleed. Rule of Rose is a survival horror game in spirit. Inventory, puzzles, combat, exploration. But in practice, it's a test of your patience, not your intellect. Combat is a chore. Jennifer moves like she's underwater and fights like she's never thrown a punch in her life. The enemies, childlike adults, animal-headed abominations, aren't frightening so much as frustrating. The lock-on system fails you more than the monsters do. Worse still, the game asks you to babysit a dog. Brown, Jennifer's faithful companion, is both a narrative device and a mechanic, sniffing out key items when commanded. It's a unique concept, but like much in Rule of Rose, it's beautiful in theory and clunky in execution. Brown's presence is a fragile lifeline, a rare source of warmth in a cold, merciless world. Yet what happens to him is quietly devastating, a fate hinted at, but never fully shown, a shadow that lingers long after the controller is set down. For those who have loved dogs, who understand the bond between child and companion, the implication of Brown's suffering or loss cuts deep. It is not cruelty shown in graphic detail, but cruelty felt in the pit of the stomach. Not for the faint of heart, and certainly not for those who see a piece of their own loyalty and love reflected in those mournful eyes. This mechanic forces the player to care, to invest emotionally, but then delivers an unspoken punishment that reverberates with sorrow. Puzzles, too, are inconsistent. Some are clever echoes of past trauma. Others feel like fetch quests, designed to pad out the runtime. You'll wander in circles. You'll beg the camera to cooperate. There is tension here, but not all of it is intentional. Not all of it survives modern scrutiny. This game deserves a remaster, and not just for preservation, but for repair. Now hush, little scholars. This next segment, sacred like a psalm echoing from a forgotten crypt. Rule of Rose is scored like a funeral for innocence. The soundtrack is an orchestra of sorrow, lullabies, and carnival decay. The music never screams, it weeps, it aches, it spirals. The strings, trembling. The piano, off-key lullabies. The silence between tracks, deafening. Sound here is not a mere background, it is a character. It pulls the player deeper into the bleak, emotional landscape. Voice acting is sparse but effective. The children speak in coded cruelty, half mocking, half weeping. Jennifer's silence is weaponized. She doesn't speak, she endures. Even the dog's whines feel mournful, less a bark, more a cry for something lost and never returned. Sound is memory, and in Rule of Rose, memory is punishment. This is not a game that scares you in the moment. This is a game that unsettles you in your sleep. Rule of Rose is psychologically traumatic, unflinching in its depiction of ritualistic abuse, social ostracization, and lost innocence. The horror doesn't come from the monsters. It comes from what they represent. The girls are terrifying, not because they wield weapons, but because they wield shame. They degrade, manipulate, gaslight. They force Jennifer to participate in her own degradation. There are few, if any, actual jump scares, only dread that festers. And the true villain? Memory. What you did, what you allowed, what you forgot. Rule of Rose has become a myth, banned in several countries, censored in others, wrapped in media panic, with headlines accusing it of depicting child abuse and sexual trauma. For the record, it implies it. It suggests. It never exploits. Copies of the game now sell for hundreds, sometimes even thousands. Not because it's perfect, but because it's rare, and because it dares. There is no remaster, no sequel, only a scar left behind on the genre. It is not a game for everyone, but it is a game no horror historian should ignore. Rule of Rose is a masterpiece of tone, metaphor, and menace, undermined only by the weight of its own mechanics. It demands patience, it punishes action, it offers no pure catharsis. But for those willing to suffer with it, for it, through it, what awaits is one of the most emotionally devastating horror stories ever told in this medium. That's the bell. Our time is up. Return your hymnals. Leave a single red crayon behind. And remember, if someone ever asks you to play a game but won't tell you the rules,